Welcome to Unlocking Your Truth, another podcast by Dr. Leslie Phillips.
Hello everybody and welcome to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie. My name is Dr. Leslie Phillips and I'm going to be your host for the next hour. And I'm here in the studio with the show producer Corey. Hello Corey.
That's me.
This evening actually what we're going to talk about is alchemy. So one of our regular listeners wrote in and said, Dr. Leslie, what is alchemy? And how does it play into modern metaphysics? So that's going to be our subject for the evening.
John wrote in a question, and John wants to know, what's the difference between an intuitive and a psychic?
An intuitive and a psychic? Well, that's a good question, and we'll answer that a bit later when we get to the questions. Yeah, we'll answer John's question later.
For those of you who don't know, intuitive is psychic, and psychic is intuitive, mostly.
Yeah. But you know what? Last week we were talking about words and how words have different frequencies, and I think that those two words, to some people, have different frequencies. Anyway, moving on. The question about alchemy and what is it? And how does it relate to modern metaphysics? Well, the ancient art or practice of alchemy, and I'll give a simple answer and then I'll give a long answer. It's about transformation from one state to another state. So there's all of this symbolism involved in alchemy where there's this idea that they're trying to convert base metals such as lead into gold. And I think that there's been various misinterpretations of alchemy, but the true spiritual meaning of alchemy is it's a transformational process where you're moving from the denser, heavier, darker aspects into the light. So it's a transformation of consciousness. And in order to answer this question, I've actually printed off from the American Guild of Alchemy's website. And I'm going to read that out in a moment. But before I do that, I'll just talk a little bit about the ancient origins of alchemy. And so it goes back before ancient Egypt. Some say it even goes back as far as ancient Atlantis, because when Atlantis was destroyed, ancient Egypt was one of the places that the Atlanteans settled. And the father of alchemy is called Hermes Trismegistus, and he is supposed to have written this, I don't know what you call it, treatise, called the Emerald Tablet, and on it is supposedly written the secrets of life, the universe and everything. And these may well be the same tablets that are reportedly to exist in the Hall of Records under the Great Pyramid of Giza. And so if you Google Hermes Trismegistus or you Google the Emerald Tablet, you'll find on the internet that there are some people who say that those tablets were found and translated, and you can even read a translation of them. And so that it's very ancient knowledge that has found its way into modern life in many different ways, all the way from spirituality in the context that I was just talking about, personal transformation, self-help, psychology, arts, literature, you name it. And we'll to answer, I think Arnold doesn't mind me saying his name, to answer Arnold's question, we'll talk a little bit about all of that. But let's just start by, I'll just read out this passage from the Alchemy Guild, because they're saying that the philosophy of alchemy is based on 3 Hermetic principles. Hermetic means of Hermes. The first is that the universe is striving towards perfection. And what they mean by that is that the universe is becoming aware. It's waking up. And the levels of awareness comprise a gradient of reality from lower frequencies to higher frequencies, which is kind of like what we were just talking about, from lead to gold, from darkness to light, from dead matter to the purest light of consciousness and of mind. They say the evolution of matter is driven by primal forces from two opposing sides of reality that ultimately come from just one thing and just one mind, which are themselves aspects of the one source. And then it goes on to talk about the different dichotomies, above, below, spirit, soul, and so on and so forth, yin and yang. So that's the first Hermetic principle. And we've talked about, without calling it Hermetic principle, we've talked about that on the show a few times. You know, the evolution of consciousness and the dichotomies, how the dichotomies on this planet help us to evolve our consciousness and to wake up. Okay, so the second principle of alchemy is that consciousness is a force in nature. Consciousness, in other words, mind or imagination, is a primordial force. And if one can purify and concentrate one's own consciousness, one can project that power into the world. Just as the one mind fashioned the cosmos from the chaos of the one thing, the primordial pattern is embedded as in the universe, as in all levels of reality, and is the basis of the alchemical doctrine of correspondence, as above, so below. So we're talking here about the microcosm and the macrocosm. And then it says, furthermore, when mind acts on matter, it imposes its essence or truest nature on it, and everything everywhere carries the archetypal signature of its original creator. By learning to read the signature of a person, substance, event, or situation, one is able to relate to its true nature or essence. And so that second principle is also something that we've talked about on the show before, in terms of energy follows thought, and you create your own reality. And all the various names that goes by, like the law, like karma or the law of abundance, and so on. You create your reality, and you create your reality through your consciousness, through your mind, through your imagination. Wherever you focus those mind waves, that's what you're projecting into your reality, and that's what's created around you. Here we go. Then the third principle is all is one. And that's also something we've spoken about on this show. All is one. The levels of creation in the universe are determined by the interplay of the one mind and the one thing, or the combined forces of mind and matter, spirit and soul. Although this pattern manifests on a myriad of different levels, ultimately the one thing and the one mind are one. This is the message of such alchemical symbols as the Aurorabus, the serpent which eats its own tail, or the eternally flowing fountain. The deepest truth is that all is one, and we experience that oneness as the purest consciousness and highest love. And the idea is that all manifested things are crystallizations or expressions of this higher light. And it goes on to say, I won't read too much more because we want to obviously talk about this a little bit. So they say, what is alchemy? And why are the obscure symbols and arcane principles of this ancient craft getting so much attention in modern times? How can the knowledge alchemists discovered and shared have such a strong influence on so many diverse contemporary areas such as psychology, spirituality, the arts, literature, business, filmmaking, gaming, and sciences like medicine and quantum physics? And they say the answer to these questions lies in the universal nature of alchemical practices and operations. Alchemy can be defined most simply as the art of transformation. The art of transformation. It is concerned with the underlying principles of how things change and the basic process of transforming one thing to another. And so, of course, if there's one thing that we can be sure of, is that all things change, all things are in motion. And I guess one might say that alchemical practices are aiming to influence the speed at which things change and the direction in which they change through the focusing of the mind. So let's talk a little bit. So the overall principle of alchemy is it's about transformation, it's about change. So let's talk a little bit, because the question was, well, how does it apply to modern metaphysics? And I think it applies to modern metaphysics, and it actually applies to modern life in many different ways when you actually start to think about it. Because alchemy is the seed that germinated into many of the sciences that we know today and call by the name of chemistry, or even, geology or quantum physics and so on. It's also underpins many of the belief systems in our present day culture, whether we're talking about spirituality and the idea of or the idea of personal growth, or whether we're talking about some of the secret societies that people belong to, or not so secret societies, like the Freemasons, the Rosicrucians, the Gnostics, the modern mystery schools. All of that originally have their roots in alchemy. The American Guild even goes on to say that alchemy gave birth to psychology, and that alchemy was the first alchemists were the first people to treat psychological problems and as chemical imbalances, and that the tradition of Carl Jung is an alchemical tradition. I don't know enough about that to know whether that's true, but that's what they're saying. And they're talking about how, just look around you when you go to the movies and you watch Harry Potter or The Matrix or The Fifth Element. That underpinning the plot line is aspects of that you could label is based on alchemy. Traditional medicine, modern medicine, all of it has its roots in alchemy, according to the American Guild of Alchemists. And I don't know that I would even argue with that, really. So, Corey, having listened to all of that, do you have any wisdom to add?
No, it sounds like it is very alive in metaphysics and has a definite part. So now we answered the question. Let's move on. No, oh no, definitely. I mean, when you look at it, when you look at it in detail, I didn't know a lot about alchemy, but if you want to define it as creating change within or without, then definitely it has a lot to do with our modern day mysticism and metaphysics. I think it's a heavy basis. I mean, if you look at metaphysics, it deals a lot with crystals and with metals and charms and the reality that even these things have inert spiritual essences.
Yeah, I mean, I think even the ancient art of the tarot and so on has its roots in alchemy.
Yeah, I don't even know. Would you actually call tarot ancient?
Well, it depends on who you're talking to, because some people would take it all the way back to ancient Egypt. Other people would just take it back to the 1800s. So it depends on what you believe about the tarot and its origins, and also what it is, which is actually, it's about spiritual transformation from the very beginning, where you have the Fool, which is unconscious, all the way to the last card in the Major Arcana. I mean, basically, as you go through those cards in the tarot deck of the Major Arcana, it's literally about transformation from an unconscious to a conscious soul.
Mm-hmm. But if you look at metaphysics, I think alchemy has a lot to do with modern religion as well, because even as much as mainstream religion doesn't want to accept that, I mean, they talk about they talk about change of state from a worldly state to a heavenly state, or the opposite direction. I mean, it's all change of state from physical to spiritual.
Exactly, whichever way you want to call that. And when you go back to the medieval alchemists, the most basic task of a medieval alchemist was to center himself within the consciousness of the divine creative presence, so that he could leap beyond himself as a human being and assist in the work of God, which is the great work of the universe. So if you're following any religion and you're aspiring to be to serve God in the world and to raise your consciousness to all of those aspects that I'm not doing very well thinking of my words today, listeners. But
yes, you are.
Am I? Well, you could call that alchemy. If alchemy is transformation from a lower state to a higher state.
Well, we can go even further than that. I mean, if you want to talk about one of the greatest alchemists that has been, that everybody knows that, and 80% of or 30% of the world, or whatever percentage of the world is following, is Jesus Christ, who turned water into wine. Walked on water, changed, what greater form of alchemy is walking on water when you change something soft to something firm.
Well, and being such a great healer as well.
And to change death into life as opposed to life into death.
Mm-hmm.
Just what a phenomenal representation of alchemy in its purest form.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, we may get callers on that.
Let's hope so.
Callers on that one.
But you almost could swap the word alchemy for transformation or change. Sure. And of course there are and there are all sorts of. I mean, I think alchemy got, what's the word? Let's see, I'm not thinking of my words.
Bad press.
Well, bad press is not the word I'm looking for, but let's use that. Like a lot of things, that in their pure original form, then they get taken hold of by people who don't completely understand it, and then it becomes understood as something else, and so some people in modern times might think of an alchemist as like a snake oil salesman, or somebody who's completely
misunderstood.
Yes, how could you possibly change lead into gold? But the deeper meaning is the transformation of the inner self to a higher state of being. Now, I talked at the beginning about the emerald tablet. There's also this thing called the Philosopher's Stone. There's a whole film about that, Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, but that was a thing in alchemy. It was, this is my understanding of it, was a special substance. If you were in possession of this Philosopher's Stone, you could transform anything into anything else, or you could transform anything into gold by possessing the Philosopher's Stone. Now, now just reading this clairvoyantly, as opposed to having Googled this or anything, my understanding of what the Philosopher's Stone would be, to me, that would be the pineal gland. To me, that would be the pineal gland. This place in the center of your head, this seat of the soul, which you have possession or mastery over that place, then that's the place where you can be in the most powerful position to transform yourself from the lower vibrations into the higher vibrations, because the pineal gland, or the center of your head, allows you to see clearly, allows you to see everything, and allows you to be neutral and non-judgmental about it, and also see how you can change it.
And the Bible also talks about the Urim and Thummim, which were worn on the forehead as a translation device to translate the Word of God. And also, I guess, maybe a focal unit for the Urim and Thummim on the third eye.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the Urim and Thummim.
No?
No, I've heard you mention it before.
Yeah. Daily.
daily. Yeah, he's got one, folks. He straps it to his head every morning.
Well, that's part of the Hebrew culture, the Jewish culture. Where you see that
yeah, no, I've seen that.
Yeah,
yes,
it's a depiction of that.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Arnold and everyone else, if you were curious about alchemy, I hope that that's answered your question and given you some information about what alchemy is. It's an ancient word and an ancient practice that really is the same as what we do today when we embark on a journey inward and a journey of awakening our consciousness. Hello everyone, welcome back to Unlocking Your Truth with Dr. Leslie. And this is the time on the show where we open up the phone lines and you can call us with your questions. Or, if you are an expert on the Emerald Tablets and Hermes Trismegistus, you can also phone up and give us some more information on that.
Maybe, do you think maybe his mother said, listen, if you're going to talk about this stuff, change your name?
Apparently his father was Thoth, which was then worshipped as a god in Egypt. Yeah. So I don't know who his mother would have been. Anyway, the email address, if you want to email us, is info@drlesliephillips.com. And like I said, you can call in and you can ask about anything. You can ask about your spirit guide. You can ask about your past lives. In fact, there was someone today who was asking me a question about their past life, and I said, phone into the radio show and I'll answer it then. So if you're listening, phone into the radio show. You can ask about your psychic abilities, anything at all, or personal challenges that you're going through. So if the phone isn't buzzing, Corey, we might have to go to an email question. What do you have for me?
We can do that. Okay, question number 1. This sounds familiar, but we get so many questions that are very similar. And this is from Chris. And Chris wants to know, what can you tell me about me, if anything?
Oh.
What can you tell me about me, if anything?
Well, that's not really my favourite type of question, because that's almost like saying, you're a psychic, prove it. What can you tell me about me, if anything? That sounds like an old list of questions. There was
that's what I was saying. Yeah, I think
there is a new list there.
Yeah, I have one here. I know there's. I understand there's a new list.
I'll
answer
I have
that,
the new list,
but no, you don't have to answer that. I think that one's.
It is. It's like prove it.
Yeah,
I don't play a prove it game.
You're a prove it person. That's what we can tell you about you. Okay, I have a question from Melanie. Melanie asks, will I create a long-term romantic relationship this year? It's a little bit of a futuristic question, but then again, we like to talk about this one.
Okay, I'll take a look. And there was one new question that for sure I wanted to answer.
I will get to that next.
Yeah, good.
Patience is a virtue.
Long-term relationship. Will it happen this year for Melanie? Let's take a look. And I've gone quiet, folks, because I'm just going into a trance so that I can look at Melanie's energy. A lot of the questions do seem similar, and sometimes the answers seem similar too, but that's because we all have so much in common with each other. We're kind of here on this planet being mirrors to one another. And so what I'm seeing, Melanie, is that, of course, as with every answer to everybody's question, it depends on you, because you create your reality through your thoughts and your beliefs. And one of the things that there's two things that I'm seeing. One is that you have a list of my perfect partner. And these are all of the attributes that my perfect partner should be. This is what they should be like, and they should be perfect in accordance with this. And I'm seeing that there's two things about it. One is it's not realistic, because nobody could ever live up to it. And I just lost the second thing I was going to say, so bear with me. Interesting energy this evening. Yeah, so you're kind of looking for the perfect partner, and the truth is the perfect partner doesn't exist. If the perfect person existed, they wouldn't be alive on this planet, quite frankly, because we're all here growing and expanding together, and we're all here helping each other grow and expand. So I'm seeing that if you could let go of your perfect expectations, that would help you to just open up to a wider range of possibilities, and it would help the universe bring a partner to you, because having expectations like that is like putting limits on something. It must only be like this, when there are so many other possibilities that of people who could come into your life and you could be very happy with. And then the other thing, and I say this to nearly everybody, is I'm actually seeing that you're not that grounded because your head is up in the clouds in the dreaming and the expectations. You're not really grounding what you want into physical reality either. And so get grounded, and you can get grounded by listening to some of the past podcasts of this show, because we talk about grounding and how to do it on a frequent basis. Or even just any mindful activity that really brings you into connection with your body and connection into the present moment. But get your energy grounded. Get it right here, right now. And then just focus on already being in the state that you hope to achieve when you're in a relationship, which means vibrating with love. Because the universe will bring you what you are. So be what you wish to attract. So that's the wisdom for Melanie.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Leslie. And now we have a message. We have a question from Lenore. And Lenore wants to know, I feel tired and a lack of energy all the time for a few years now. What is blocking my energy flow?
Very good. So I will take a look at the feeling tired and what's going on. So bear with me while I tune in to this person. And this person's called Lenore.
Lenore.
Okay, and Lenore is feeling tired all the time and has been feeling tired for a few years and wants to know what's going on. And I did email a response to Lenore earlier today as well, and I'll repeat what I said in that, but I'm also going to see, it looks like there's some additional information to say here as well. Because the first thing I wanted them to do was actually to go to the doctor and get their thyroid checked. And the thyroid is an organ that relates to a lot of things, and so if, as well as feeling tired, you're putting on weight, if as well as feeling tired your cholesterol's going up and those kind of things, then it could very well be your thyroid. On a spiritual level, I was seeing that there was a block in being able to communicate what you need, sort of not expressing your inner voice, not expressing your true inner needs and inner thoughts and inner desires. So a tendency to have been quashing things down to such an extent that it's having a physical effect on you, because the life that you've created is not in accordance with what you really, what your true inner desires are, and so I'm seeing that you're not it's that lack of fulfillment, and it's just the energy that it takes to suppress all of that that's making you tired. Now, I want to take another look at you because I feel like there's something else to say here. And that it looks like there might be another piece which has to do with spirit and body, and just knowing how much of your energy to bring into the body. Because I'm seeing that sometimes you're grounded and sometimes you're not grounded. And when you're grounded, you're bringing in a lot of energy, and that is frying your circuits a little bit. If you think of yourself, you're an infinite being. Infinite, eternal. There's no end to you. There's no end to your energy. But your body is finite. So all of your energy is not meant to be in your body. Just the amount that's meant to be there is meant to be there. And so, I'm seeing that just having an awareness of, because it's almost like you're coming into the body and going, got to get this body going, and then overdoing it. And so I would just say pay a little bit of attention to that as well. Okay, so that's my answer to Lenore.
Oh, thank you, Dr. Leslie.
I think we've probably got to go for a break, and then we can do some more questions after the break. Hello everybody, welcome back to Unlocking Your Truth. Hello, caller.
Hi.
Hello, what's your name?
Miss R.
R. And what, did you say your name was R?
Yeah, I'd rather just,
right, that's fine, yes. And what's your question?
It's just a general reading. I was hoping that, I feel that there's a lot of energies and changes going on for me right now, very strong, and just seeking a little guidance and direction.
Okay. And
probably at the heart of it is a health matter, my own health matter.
Okay. Okay, let's take a look at that for you. And if you could keep your eyes open, I'm just going to go into a very light trance, and
okay.
And then I'm just, hold on a second. I'm sorry about that. I'm back. So, now, we're going to take a look at your health issue. Give me 1 minute. Okay. So, it's kind of interesting. You tell me if this is right, but it looks to me as though, you're, like I said to the other person, either there's some kind of burnout or overstress or some kind of maybe even a hormonal thing that's been going on, because the body looks like you're carrying a lot of denser, heavier energy that you're wanting to release and let go of, and yet I'm just going to give you a healing while I'm talking to you.
Okay.
But are we giving correct information when we're talking?
Yeah, it's pretty right on.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just helping you to ground, and I'm starting to just help you to start moving and releasing that. Because your body looks exhausted. To be honest, it looks exhausted, but I would also say that it looks exhausted, and it really does look like it needs just time and patience to recover, and paying attention to it and treating it right, making sure it gets all of the things that it needs. It looks to me like you, and when I say you, I mean the spiritual consciousness. You are, you see some people and they're just not even focused on their bodies at all. I'm seeing that you have the focus and the will that you're wanting to heal and move forward.
That's really true.
And that's really more than half the battle. Really, is that for anyone to heal, they need to want to heal, and they need to, be focusing on creating that shift and change. And so I'm seeing that you are doing that on a spiritual level, and it's just that the physical body, because it exists in time and space, it takes longer. Yes, it takes longer to shift.
Your words are really helpful, because I feel I know I'm on the right track, but often, like you said, we get impatient and we want 3 days later to be bouncing around. And if it's not happening, then we're like, oh, it doesn't work, and then I'm just going to eat what I want and not do what I'm supposed to do. But so your words are very fortifying. Thank you.
Oh, good. But, I'm seeing you are on your way and you are focused on healing yourself, but it's like it's not, exactly like you said, in 3 days' time, you're not going to be jumping up and down. But it's really, it's about listening to your body and listening to its signals to you. And what does it need right now? Maybe it needs sleep. Maybe it needs to eat a green smoothie. Maybe it needs to go for a walk. But just being patient and communicating with it all the time about what it needs from you. And doing the things that will help you to release the exhaustion. And meditation helps, but exercise helps as well. Yeah, so
those things are good. And then the other part of the question was just sort of a general direction. I think that I can make sure that I'm making that a priority, because everything else is secondary to that, obviously. But it's also been... there's been some major shifting in my life recently for the better, but also geographically, and so I just want to know if you were getting any kind of insights into, for example, career or anything coming through, art or anything.
Okay, well, I'll take a look. So you want? So there's been some other changes, and you're interested in career. Well, the growth cycle that you're in right now really does look like it's a major growth cycle around learning to learning how to operate consciously through your body and work together with your body. And so the main thing that was coming up was, in moving forward, that whatever you choose, allow you to retain that balance,
Okay.
Allow you to retain that balance. I mean, right now, am I seeing a particular direction? No, but if you give me more information, I might be able to. If you tell me what you might not want to, but if you tell me some of the areas that you're considering, I can see if any of them look particularly bright.
Okay. I was earning a living designing clothing and sewing. But it was a secondary career that I fell onto when I was younger. And now I'm back in the position where I could possibly shift into some of my interests from my youth, which are coming to the forefront. And
do you mind naming what they are?
Well, I there was writing, there was music, and then I've gotten very interested in law, but, I'm not like a spring chicken anymore. So, more of the artistic things creative things are what I really feel my passion is. That's what draws me.
Yeah, and I think that's the right direction, talking about the creativity. Of the three things that you mentioned, the one that looked the brightest was music, but I wouldn't necessarily say that's the direction, but it's just the quality of that, because it's more about having fun, being relaxed, and it looks like that's just something that would help your body feel better. And so right at the moment, the writing doesn't come up as bright, and at the moment law doesn't come up as bright. But as you heal and as your body gets stronger, I'm sure that the path will become clearer for you.
It seems like that's where I'm at. So everything that we talked about is really nice to hear. It's just not me wishing or thinking it was that way. And then I don't know if I have time, if I'm allowed to just ask you to touch on the area of relationship and love, because that's been something that I haven't really paid attention to, but I'm starting to think about that again.
Okay, very quickly, because there is one other caller
Absolutely.
on the line. So not being in a relationship now, but wanting to be in a relationship. And, I'll just answer that very quickly, because it's the same thing that I seem to give the same answer to a lot of people who ask about that. But it really is about be the partner that you want to attract. Because basically the law of abundance says that the universe reflects back at you exactly who you are. Right? So if you're loving yourself and taking care of yourself, you'll attract another person who's at that same vibration. Whereas if you're not, then you'll attract somebody who doesn't. And so it's really down to you. Like we were saying with the healing, if you're putting your focus into creating that, then that's part of it. But the other thing is, remember, you attract who you are. And so if there's some stuff that you're wanting to heal, then healing it so that you can be at at that higher vibration will help you bring somebody into your life that's more supportive. And you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, you're really welcome. Thank you for calling.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good luck with everything, and I hope that your recovery. No,
it was really nice to hear what it's like. You know how it is. You know it, but these things are not like you wake up in the morning, it's written on the wall. So it's having the feedback come back and just verifies what you already know inside, and that's strength. So that was good. Thank you so much.
All right. Well, thank you. Bye. All right, I believe we have another caller, so I will give the signal to Corey, and hopefully the other person will come through. Hello, caller.
Hello, Dr. Leslie.
Oh, hello. How are you?
I'm doing well. This is my second time listening to the show, and I found it very interesting.
Oh, great. And what's your name, and what can we do for you today?
My name is Nav, and I feel a little bit interested. I don't know, it's a little bit strange calling this, because I've never called a psychic or anything like this before, and I'm somewhere down the middle about whether I believe or not believe.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been having some interesting experiences, I think, and when I think about it all my life, and I was just wondering, I just wanted a new kind of perspective.
Sure. Well, please share some of the experiences, and I'll give you my perspective on it.
Okay, so I was going to say this might sound out there, but I'm calling it right. So, since I was a kid, I've been having reoccurring dreams, maybe once a year, maybe twice a year sometimes. I've had several of them, so I guess it might be more than just, or less than once a year. But I always see a spaceship sometimes in my dreams, and I'll wake up at the strangest time right after I see a spaceship, and it'll be before my alarm clock goes off or before somebody comes in to wake me up, and I'll feel energized and wide awake. And I've just always had a fascination with extraterrestrials, and I feel like they've been trying harder to contact me than me contact them, which is such a weird thing to say. You know, me being someone who's like a business person and somebody who's very kind of grounded in the ways of Earth and all that. But I was just wondering what your perspective was on extraterrestrials and contact and all that.
Okay, I'll give you my perspective, and then I'll also tune into you and look very specifically at your experience. So before I go into trance, well, of course we're not the only planet with life on it, you know.
Right.
So of course extraterrestrials exist, and not only that is we are the show of the universe right now, planet Earth, because you know, I don't know whether you've probably heard about 2012 and all of this stuff about the frequency on the planet increasing.
Right, I've had this for,
yeah, we're in this peak of this 26,000 year cycle where we have the opportunity to undergo a massive shift and a massive transformation. And of course, when any one part of the universe shifts, it impacts another part of the universe. So the ETs are paying quite a strong attention to us right now. And a lot of them are wanting to assist us in our transformation. And so that's the first thing I want to say. So extraterrestrials are not necessarily scary bad things out of a horror movie. A lot of them are more evolved spiritually in many other ways than we are, and quite capable of helping and assisting us. And not only that, if you take the perspective of we are eternal beings, many of the souls that are alive on this planet in physical bodies on Earth today predate this planet. Well, where did we come from before that? You know, and so many of us have extraterrestrial origins of our own and connections with off-planet groups. Now, let me take a look at you in your specific case. And if you just keep your eyes open, I'll go into my trance again, and then I'll be able to see what's going on for you. Oh, and the other thing that I wanted to say is that they don't all necessarily... We're in a three-dimensional reality here on planet Earth. Many of these ETs are in higher dimensional realities, and that's why it is so common for people to engage in communication with ETs while they're asleep. Because when you're asleep, you leave your physical body and you visit the higher dimensions of reality, either in your astral body or your light body. And so that's the first thing that, as I started tuning into your energy, that's the first thing that was coming up, was that, you know, you're having this contact while you're asleep. So that contact is happening in a different dimension of reality than, you know, physical 3D reality. Let's see if I can get some information about who you're connected with and why. Well, I'm seeing that there's this is the way that it looks. This is the way that it's looking like to me. Okay. It's almost like there's an aspect of yourself that you are wanting to connect with, and have that some aspects of that other part of yourself integrate or download into the conscious, physical, temporal personality. And so maybe I would say it like this, that you... There's names that people throw out there in the New Age community, like star seed and things like this, and all that means is that, you know, there's an aspect of you that exists perhaps in another star system, right? You've been and so I'm seeing that looks like the case to me. And what also looks like the case to me is that you are integrating that other aspect of yourself, you're kind of positioning yourself to be a conscious player in some of the shifts that we're wanting to make on this earth, away from that fear and greed model that we've been involved in for so very long, to a more enlightened way.
Thank you for joining us. You've been listening to another Unlocking Your Truth podcast by Dr. Leslie Phillips. For more information, go to our website at drlesleyphillips.com. That's drlesleyphillips.com, where you can ask questions or send her an email, and there's many free gifts on there for you as well. Come back again.